What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Brian, episode 7, Daredevil. I'd have to say, I don't know, Brian, it's sort of mixed in terms of how people are reacting to some of these episodes. There's some people who are really high on it. Does it compare to Netflix? No. To me, no. Am I enjoying it? I'm enjoying certain moments, but when some of those moments come, they're not impressive. Outside of the actors, Brian, I'm not really too excited or satisfied with the fight sequences. Again, there's a problem. I'm always good for the performances with Vincent D'Onofrio and Matt Murdock. What's his name? Charlie Cox. And you look forward to seeing the Punisher. We've got him once. So, I mean, I don't know if the story is progressing fast enough for, we only got 2 more episodes left, and it just doesn't feel like it's too much of a slow burn, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
I think that there are more elements now that we're 7 episodes in where I can see the promise of the show, and I think I can see what this show could have been if the cohesive creative vision for it had been there from the beginning. But I agree with you that I think that ultimately this is turning into it's more like season 3.5 than season 4, if that makes sense. It's just like there's putting pieces on the board. There's stuff that's left over from the first things that they were shooting that they just didn't want to let go. And it's creating an uneven show that has some really good elements. And you're kind of just sitting there thinking, okay, well, season 2, they had a chance to shoot from the very beginning with the Netflix team and with the new vision for what they wanted Born Again to be. Maybe that will be a little more consistent and a little more propulsive than this show is turning out to be. Because to your point, there's 2 episodes left. So episode 7, I think, continues the streak of there's some really interesting things now being put into this show where it's like, okay, it's a shame it took us 7 episodes. I feel like there is a little bit of momentum. It's uneven momentum, but there is momentum. So things that I really liked about the episode, I liked the dynamism in Vanessa and Wilson's relationship. I think we finally saw her starting to, which we knew, right? You hit on it from the very beginning when he walked into the room and she's running the meeting, that she didn't really want to cede power. She didn't really want to give up her seat at the head of the table. And finally, we start to see her with her own plans and machinations and become a character in this show as opposed to just a face. So I really like that, and I want to see where that's going. We can talk about the last scene because I'm not totally convinced that what we saw is exactly what we're supposed to think. But I like that aspect. I liked Michael Gandolfini finally showing more of a heel turn in the conversation with BB. I think among new characters, it was the first time I kind of felt like new character to new character, we were getting somewhere. We were getting something that was like, okay, I kind of want to see where this goes.
One of the things that I didn't like was the fast forward answers in rapid fire, giving us who this Muse guy is.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, that was to me very disappointing. And again, I don't know. The fight sequences don't look good to me. It just looks like 2 guys fighting in a costume in a room. It's just visually, it's not visually impressive compared to the first iterations on Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Muse part is my least favorite part of this episode. There's 2 parts of this episode I really didn't care for. The Muse part and the scene with Matt, McDuffie, and Sherry. Those 2 scenes to me didn't work, and they didn't work for the same reason, which is I keep having it stuck in my head, the comment from the creators and Disney going into, and Winterbaum going into this season, where they kind of said we wanted to tamp down some of the long conversations and we wanted to increase the action. I think those scenes are examples of why the long conversations and the way Netflix structured some of its show really not only worked, but were necessary to caring about all aspects of the show. I do think there's potential with Muse. Like, I'm interested just because I know what Muse is supposed to be. And I'm convinced that maybe what happened in this episode is actually a prelude to my point about we aren't into the real season yet, a prelude to getting real Muse or something closer to real Muse on the board.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you in the sense of, if you recall how they brought Bullseye into season 3, I mean, we spent an entire episode with him as a kid, how he was parented, like how he was abandoned. Like, they give you the backstory of why he's so twisted, right? Why he has so much. And here's a guy, speaking of therapy and Heather Glenn, a lot of that is spent in therapy, where he's talking to his therapist and then feels like his therapist abandons him. And that actually kind of is a recurring theme in his life. So that when you see Bullseye in season 3 doing what he does and breaking fully bad, it makes sense in a grounded way how this guy could get to that place.
Yeah.
With Muse, you don't really have that, right? Muse, you kind of have what he is today, and then you have basically 2 stories. Him telling Heather Glenn that he feels seen because of all this and her book and all that sort of stuff. And then you have sort of the profile given to you, not by Muse himself or in flashback, but just kind of told that, like, oh, you know, he had the Taekwondo training from this guy and then he killed the guy. You're just told that, right? So it's a different approach to building up the character's backstory. It takes less time, which is what Disney wanted. But in the end of the day, I think it makes the character feel like less when he goes crazy and then is in this fight with Daredevil that ostensibly leads to him being killed, firmly in quotation marks. So I didn't love that. And for the same reason with McDuffie and Cherry, that's not Foggy and Mahoney or Foggy and Ben. Like, we haven't spent, like, McDuffie's just I mean, I hate to say it, but McDuffie's checking some boxes right now as a character. There's nothing to that character at all.
Yeah.
As to why I should care about her, what her motivations are for working with Matt, like where she comes from. There's nothing. The characters literally wouldn't.
What makes her that good, that she's a partner?
Correct. There's literally nothing. Like, if you think about not just Foggy's comics history, but like the episode Nelson versus Murdoch, where Foggy finds out who he is, and then they flash back to them in like law school, getting to know each other. Like, they make sure that you understand the entire world of Daredevil from Foggy's perspective, right? The lawyering, all of it, to where they're jousting with each other morally and legally. Like, it carries real weight. Like, this woman, like, I don't care. Like, so she's in the room and has her opinions. I'm like, you don't matter at all. And then similarly with Cherry, it's like Cherry acts and tells us like he's known Matt for years, right? There's that conversation of knowing. But I don't feel that. I don't feel any familiarity with him as like a Commissioner Gordon type character, you know? It's a scene that's supposed to really have some weight, but I just feel like it falls flat because I just don't care about the 2 other people in the room and their connection to our lead. So I feel like, could it work? Like, if Disney gave me that over the next season, yeah, it probably could. It would flesh those characters out, and then those scenes might matter more. So it's not like a lost cause, but I think it's a creative choice right now that I'm struggling with, and it makes the episode like this one feel uneven.
It almost puts into question, what if they had the 18 episodes to play with to really explore some of these things, where you can go back and see a scene with Cherry and Daredevil back in the day, where you can see little vignettes of a child being, you know, growing up and like the Muse, like who is this kid that we keep going back to, you know? Okay, this could be the Muse. What if they had 18 episodes to really flesh this out? Because it seems like, obviously this shouldn't be season 2. It should be season 1, part 2. The way this is going.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, this is where like I said, you can always feel in every episode the multiple shows. And as I said, there's always elements of these episodes now, especially, you know, I think from 4 onward in particular, like 4, 5, 6, and 7, there's been multiple pieces where I'm like, they have something here. They have something here that I don't want to let go of, that I want to spend more time with, that I really want to develop, and I hope they carry forward. but it very much is like an unfocused picture. It's like I can see little bits of it, but that whole, it's not coalescing in like a powerful way yet. It could. That's what I'm saying. Season 2 could be really, really good. Like I really still have hopes for it because I'm seeing the strands. But this particular season does really, really feel like, you know, the editing room and the two different shows and Kevin coming in after they had done, what was it, shot 4 episodes and being like, no, we're not doing this anymore. Like it just really, I feel like it's taken you out of what this season could be. So I think that's where we're at. Now, I did want to ask you about, we'll get to the action because that's a whole, I have questions and theories on that, but do you think Muse, because we know we've seen some reports that Muse will be back in season 2. Do you think after this episode, they will basically give him, if they don't call him an Inhuman, they will at least give him his sort of contra mat power, which is the anti-sense imperceptibility?
There lies the curiosity of how they make that work. I want to see if they can pull it off. You always want to see some struggle and see if someone can overcome. That's the whole thing of Rocky, right? So you're in to see if Andy Ruiz can beat Anthony Joshua. Yes, you want to see that. Shout outs to Marks, who didn't pick up my call. I could have made $1,100 that night.
Oh, you had Ruiz?
Yeah, yo, because the elements, there was too many unknowns, and I just felt it, and it happened. It happened. Anything else regarding the Muse?
I don't think he's dead. I mean, in the parlance of this show, we often see this where it's like, oh, they hold up the mask, he's down. Like, I don't think he's dead because I don't think you would invest what they invested in this season as far as his murals, you know, the kidnapping of Angela, the previous fights, to then dispense with him in episode 7 and be like, great, we're onward and upward. I'm just saying if he survives, and obviously we've seen like with Bullseye, I mean, Bullseye's been killed how many times at this point, basically? And you know, he just...
But we know why for him.
Of course. But I'm saying...
But for Muse, I don't know how they do that.
But that would be I don't know, maybe but again, Muse is supposed to be an Inhuman. What if they make him a mutant? Like, what if they give him a twist genetically or something where him being killed actually unlocks that? And now
that stress, yes.
Right. So I don't think they would give him the super strength and the super speed because that's never been the Daredevil world. Mm-hmm. But I think that the imperceptibility is what makes the character interesting, right? It's he literally is a sensory blocker for everything Matt is able to feel, hear in a heightened way. To introduce this character of all characters and then not explore what that might look like on screen, to me would be criminal malpractice as a showrunner. It really would. I mean, it's just, to your point, it's like I remember when he was fighting the Hand and he's trying to solve, like, why can't I hear the heartbeats? Like, why? And then remember Stick's like, you got to take it up a notch. And he starts listening for the weapons, and he starts listening for the breath when they put away the weapons. Like, that stuff is cool, man. I know you don't love all of season 2 and all that sort of stuff, but like him solving that as he's getting beaten up.
That part was dope. Cool. Yeah, that part was dope.
It's just cool to see it. And so I think with this guy, you know, saying he's a Taekwondo expert is not enough, right? That's silly. That just gives an excuse for why
you know what you know what I thought about when they say Taekwondo expert? Tommy Lee, best of the best.
Coach, he's gonna kill him. No.
Eric Roberts crying every 5 minutes.
I just think if they don't do that, I think they're really missing out on what this character could be, and something that could, I think, be a really nice, interesting strand of television. So I really hope they do.
But there lies the, like, if they make that dope, that explanation and how he's able to do, I like all that stuff, right? But it has to sort of make sense and not just poof. You know what I'm saying? If he's a mutant, okay, that's the getaway. That's the key. That's the Phoenix, how we say. You know, the MacGuffin to just make everything okay. But we'll see. We'll see how they do it. Action.
Yeah. They're still struggling, I think, a little bit. But I think I think they're struggling in part for some fixable reasons. And I'm actually starting to wonder if there's a purpose to some of this. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, and maybe it's because I'm hoping. You notice how he's fighting in the daytime a lot? That feels so conspicuous and not a good idea that it almost makes me think that it's like setting up. Like, I know he fought Muse in kind of the subway area and sort of that type of area, but like he had a broad daylight fight, not as Daredevil in the last episode. Now he has one in broad day in a sunlit office with Muse as Daredevil. Even the fight with Bullseye, which ostensibly was at evening, was lit a lot differently than like the hallway fight, for example, in the Netflix series, or some of the Nobu conflict. It's making me wonder if they're doing a deliberate, like, hey, because he's descending back into Daredevil, we aren't sending him to fight in the darkness in full just yet. And I'm wondering if we're getting there. But it is not changing the fact that, like, by putting it in the daylight, by the way they're blocking this, like in The Office, it just doesn't look as intense or as believable or as visually gripping as the Netflix stuff. And the CGI, when they introduce the CGI stuff, it's not working. I don't think. Based on ever since Charlie Cox told us how they were doing it, now I'm looking for it. Like in that Muse fight, you can kind of see where they flourished it, like with the CGI and him using the puncture. And so it's not working. It's not adding.
It's taking away. Yeah, I even liked, although a lot of it was CGI, but in some instances where Ben Affleck's Daredevil was fighting like in the bar in the beginning and stuff, like some of that stuff was dope. Except for the park sequence with Jennifer, that was horrendous.
Yeah.
I don't know how that got past the okay.
Oh, by the way, so just since you brought us into that Daredevil for a second, Colin Farrell as Bullseye in that movie is a great example of that is definitely not Bullseye, but you can't look away when that's on screen. He's at the very least interesting.
Interesting, yes.
He's crazy in that movie. It's just hilarious how crazy he is. But he's actually he's probably the most interesting character portrayal, I think, in that film. So to the point of Colin Farrell within this IP, especially if he takes over as Sergeant Rock, his legacy cannot ignore that. The Bullseye cameo or sidekick role is not terrible. That's actually pretty fun to see in if you just take yourself out of the comics world for a minute. Anyway, we like Colin Farrell in this genre. That's the point.
Yes.
Oh, here's my other thing. I get that Matt is sort of finding his way as Daredevil, but we gotta watch. We might have to start like a count meter for who gives the angry yell more in the action scenes, Matt Murdock or Henry Cavill's Man of Steel. Who gives more angry cries when they're at work?
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a like, I know what you're doing, but like now we're at number 6 or 7 of these, and I'm getting a little like, okay.
You could sort of play with the, when you're born, you yell. So this is him coming out of this
baby Daredevil.
So we only got 2 more episodes, episode 8 and 9.
What do you think of Vanessa? What do you think's going on? Do you like this idea of making them sort of like potential sneaky rivals to each other? I like it. Yeah.
So wait. You think she's really trying to set him up to be offed?
So this is what I think. Go ahead.
I think she is moving up her timeline because I think she knows he'll eventually turn, but let me speed that process up. I think. What are your thoughts?
Interesting. So so this was maybe it fits then. I wasn't thinking about it quite in those terms. So you're saying she wants the old Kingpin back, and she's actually now trying to grease the runway to kind of get that to happen. Interesting. So I think she double crossed the double cross. My theory is that she set up the hit and then she told him about the hit. which is why he says at the end whether to thank her and what she wants for dinner. I think she did take the meeting with the guy. The guy called the meeting, right? So she takes the meeting. She makes the call, tells him where Fisk's going to be, basically green lights him. But then I think she told Fisk and Cashman about that, but that this guy was coming. So that's why Cashman's waiting for him and kills him. So I think she's actually on both sides of that event and ultimately still pro Kingpin. But there is this sense of her role is going to be different in the organization. Right? Remember, even going back to season 3, where she's like, I want to be all the way in.
Yeah.
Send me away. I'm always going to be alone with you unless you actually bring me in. So we'll see. But I do think there'll be some tension. I don't think she necessarily would do everything the same way he does.
Side note. That guy, what's his name? Cashman?
Yeah, Buck Cashman.
When I saw him in certain shots, he's a very interesting looking. I know Henry Cavill is number one choice.
Oh, Bond.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I do think that scene is not all the way it was shot. You're clearly meant to think Vanessa set up Fisk to be killed, and it backfired. And I think she actually set him up and tipped him off.
Okay.
Yeah. Now the one variable to this, however, is her lover. And that's the one thing that she doesn't know about. And one wonders how she will feel when she finds out.
Does she know about it? I think she probably does know, yo.
Oh, you think she does know?
I think she just don't kill him. She just don't kill him.
I don't think she knows that part. We'll see.
I think she knows.
Okay.
That's the crazy part of all of this, yo. That relationship, she's crazy, you know?
She is. You're right. Yeah.
So I feel like she would go the lengths that she went to sort of push Kingpin to be Kingpin quicker than he would probably want to. She was getting tired. She always knew. Every time she looked at, I know you're gonna change. I'm just sitting here and just waiting.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna go with she doesn't know, and I'm gonna go with it's gonna be a divisive element to this when she finds out how far he took this, and then he's gonna defend it by saying, "I didn't kill him. I kept my word."
Let us know in the comment section below what you guys think. What's happening here with Vanessa? I think she knows, and she's just wants her old dude back. She wants the old Kingpin back, and she knows everything that's happening. Let us know in the comment section below what you guys think.
With 2 episodes to go, feeling like it's really taken us until the middle of the season to kind of get a season going.
Mm-hmm.
I really am kind of feeling like this is very much like a prelude or a part 1 or like a to be continued type of season 1. Like we knew there'd be a cliffhanger, but also know how like in Daredevil, each of the Daredevil seasons, there was a resolution of sorts to each season as well. I don't think this will have a resolution. I think this is really going to reemergence of full Kingpin, reemergence of the Daredevil that they actually envisioned for this show, and them colliding in some way in episode 9. But it is very much like now we've opened the door and we're actually starting as we go forward.
I don't necessarily think we actually get a face-off between Kingpin and Daredevil.
Oh, you don't? I think they have to share at least one more scene together before the season is over.
Possibly, yes, possibly, but not in a sense that it's because I'm getting over the whole Kingpin versus Daredevil fight in the last one. You know what I'm saying? And because they have a season 2 already in tow, they're extending those confrontations and those elements because we got to see. To me, I think we got to see the best of Kingpin for a while until we get that ultimate collision where everybody's watching.
Interesting.
Everybody's here to see.
I
don't think we get away with another face-off and then get away with it again in season 2.
I just think that there's a book ending that's there to be had where it's like they sat in the diner as reformed men and had a conversation. And if they end the season in costume or in character, even if they're not necessarily blows to blows in the same way they were at the end of season 1 of Netflix, that to me feels like the proper bookend for what this season is trying to do. Like they're in the shot. Maybe it's he's killed Heather Glenn. Maybe it's Matt's done something to Vanessa. Like, but something that like is bringing them into the same picture. And like Fisk has his tactical suit back on, and is full and is big, fully big again. And Matt is in the suit, and like I don't know, it feels like it has to be about those two, and so this season needs to end with those two having progressed to the point where next season they kind of are the characters we imagine them to be. Like
I like the little hints of Kingpin coming back. Like the jacket is ripping because he can't fit it no more. He's eating bigger meals, whereas in the beginning he was eating egg whites and stuff like that. So
and the voice is coming back. So that answers my question. D'Onofrio was slow playing the voice to sound more feeble, because there's been scenes now where as he's getting bigger, where he sounds more sadistic, and he's clearly lowering the tone. So it's actually the actor. So credit to him, because he fooled me into thinking he couldn't do it. But he actually attuned it a little bit. I need to know the backstory on that, because I heard an interview with him that he didn't explain, that he said that voice was developed from something in his like personal past, and I want to know what that was. I might do a little more research on that. But he said that voice is very personal to him because it came from something it was inspired by something like he knew personally from his past. I want to know what that is, because it's amazing. It's an amazing voice that he does.
Yeah. Anything else, Brian, before we sign off?
No, this show is definitely still giving me enough to be interested. Like I said, we're not at Netflix level, but every week I'm kind of feeling like there's more worthwhile stuff to explore, and I'm just really holding my breath and fingers crossed that like the editing as we get into a cleaner season next season will lead to just a more consistent result. That I think it's funny. I've seen some of the comments saying like, "Oh, complain." I'm like, well, I think the issue of complaint with this show really has to do with the legacy of the show. As I said, if this was the first season we'd ever gotten of Daredevil, I think we'd feel probably better about a decent amount of it. I think, but we keep holding it to this appropriately high standard of where Netflix was, and that's where this show is. That's what it shows up against, as we've known from the day that Disney acquired it. This was not. This was not. You got back the remains of the Fox verse, right? This was you got a classic, and we don't want you to dishonor that.
Yeah, you just got a high bar, and you got to stay at it or exceed it. And I think you can exceed it. Obviously, it's yours. You saw what everybody liked. All you got to do is see what it took to get to that, and stay there or exceed it, and you have it. And you have it. That's all. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of the Daredevil. We usually don't do this. We usually don't cover from week to week a show. We usually like let it play out and just give our thoughts on the entirety of the season. But this is the one show that we've been consistent on talking about every week.
Good for content. However, let me ask you, because that is a big change from what Netflix did. Would you feel any differently about this show? We obviously haven't. Let's maybe wait to fully answer this question until episode 9. But when you get to the end of that episode, how would you feel about this season if they had given it all to you at the same time, which is what Netflix would have done? I think it's a question worth exploring as you're going along here. It's been good for content. We can talk about it every week, but like the approach, I'm curious to see at the end of this how we feel. Did it work as a week to week, or a week to week with a couple of double episodes versus here's all 9, have at it in a weekend?
Let us know in the comment section below what you guys think. Remember to hit that like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gen Report.